Thank you. Guys, anybody have any open questions regarding previous session?
Nothing from my side.
Okay. So what about others, guys? Are we done all the POCs? Whatever the assignments we given? So please work on it, guys. So as per the yesterday's discussion, did you get chance to create an account in Salesforce? If not, please create an account, guys. We're going to do the external integration. So till now, whatever the Postman, whatever the browser, as a consumer, we are trying to use this API tool, and then we are trying to hit the request. So instead of that, what we'll do, we'll try to integrate with the external system, right? So we already started integrate with the external system, guys, that which is nothing but online MySQL, right? So the remote database, we are trying to integrate with the remote database. Hope you guys done that one as well. Even I shared my account as well. You can use that one. Select and update queries. You can use it, and we can work with accordingly. And then this is one more external integration, the Salesforce. So nowadays, most of the requirement, guys, from the client perspective, wherever the CRM integrations, right? So this is one of the best CRM in the market, guys. Salesforce, you might aware about it. And that too, the Salesforce acquired the MuleSoft, right? So whoever have already clients, right? Salesforce have already plenty of clients. I mean, number of clients in the market. So whoever using Salesforce, right? They started using MuleSoft as well, right? As per the Salesforce suggested, right? So they started wherever the integration required. So they started using MuleSoft as well. So that is also one more reason. So the MuleSoft getting more boom. Okay. So I logged into my my account, guys. So here you can see there are two. I mean, GUI side we can see two kind of GUIs here. One is Lightning, another one is Classic. Okay, from Salesforce perspective. Once you logged in, so you can see I'm in a Classic view actually. So if you want to switch to the Lightning, so the latest the GUI, the latest GUI experience, if you want, you can switch it. Okay, so if you are familiar with the Classic, then you can use the Classic. Okay, you don't need to do you don't need to have much knowledge in the Salesforce, guys, but at least for the integration perspective, what information we need, that I'm going to explore that area so that you can able to integrate with the whatever the objects, right? Sometimes you might ingest the data into appropriate object here, or else you might fetch the data from the Salesforce. Okay, so please try to create an account. Once you logged in, here you can see that setup. Click the setup button. Okay, and top of your name, you can see that my profile, my settings, developer console, switch lightning experience, and the logout. And then you can see number of the existing applications actually. As I said, as a developer account, if you create, so you can see that these are all applications actually. Now I'm in a sales application. Similarly, you can see that number of applications here: sample, console, app launcher, Salesforce, charter. So these are all their applications. So they provide one of the application for the practicing. So in that sales application, so you can see that these are all the menu items. You can see that leads, accounts, contacts, opportunities. So what you're going to do it here, usually the Salesforce business start with the contacts, right? So contacts, accounts, the leads, and the opportunities. This is the process actually. So here, if you see, if you want to see the data, for example, I just want to see the existing contacts. I'm just clicking all contacts here. You can see these are all the they provided sample data to practice. Okay, so here what you are going to do, so we will try to fetch this data and ingest into our DB, and then we'll do vice versa as well. From the DB, we'll try to fetch the data and then ingest into Salesforce as well. Both the ways will practice it, guys. So if you want to see the data, so here whatever you are seeing that object here, right, or menu item, so which is nothing but the backend table actually. For example, contact is the table, opportunity is the table. So they have the Salesforce.com have their own database. For example, if I want to create a new contact, right? So here you can see the click new symbol. So here is a GUI to create a new contact. So whatever the required fields, right? You can just fill that required fields and then you can create a new contact. Okay, but the programmatically, so this is the manually you can enter the data and then you can create a new contact, but we have to create it through programmatically through MuleSoft. We'll try to integrate with the Salesforce and try to create the new account. We'll see that way. Okay, so as I said, each one is nothing but a table here, right? So you can see more if you click the plus symbol here, more are there. Actually, these are all objects. Okay, so for example, so if you want to integrate with the MuleSoft, right? So we have to execute some kind of the queries actually, right? So here, whatever we discussed in the DBMS concept or the database concept, right? So we call it as a SQL. There is a proper structure, SQL structure query language. So here as well, similar kind of language called SOQL. SOQL. So Salesforce Object Query Language. For example, I just want to see what are the existing leads, right? So here, if you go to on top of your name, so but originally there might be restriction in client, the client sandbox or client, the production Salesforce URL, or so they have different kind of sandboxes. We can call it as a sandboxes here. So you might have a restriction that particular sandbox, you don't have access to this developer console, but we are the admin for this, right? We create an account here also. We are the admins, so that we can able to say everything in your account. Okay. So what I'm trying to say here, so if you want to query it, for example, here I can say through GUI, I can see, right? When I click the go, I can see all the accounts, all the leads. These are all the leads. Suppose I just want to fetch via MuleSoft, we need a query, right? So for that, so how we'll do that? So we'll get a query from the Salesforce. So click on your name. There is a developer console. Okay. So go to file. Here you can see open. Okay. Search for the objects here. So you can see the list of objects. I just want to search for the lead. Here is the lead. Double click it. So we can see that entire fields. What are the fields? Appropriate data type. So here you can see that ID is deleted, master ID, last name, first name, right, middle name. So all these are all the field. Left side you can see whatever. So these are the fields. The right side you can see the apex type, which is nothing but a written type. Okay, I'm just selecting. Use shift control and select. So I'm just selecting that one. Prepare a query here. Just click the query. You can see this. So this is the entire query. Okay, so this is the query we are going to use in MuleSoft. So usually in Salesforce we have the more than 50-60 parameters will be there, guys. Okay, so this is a query. You can see, select all the fields from that lead. So one more thing. So here star, it should not work, guys. Usually in SQL, right? We'll just mention select star from that particular table. But here it will not work. So you have to mention individual field externally. Okay. So now we are clear how to take a query from the Salesforce. You just go to the developer console. You should have an access, guys. If you want to use this on your name, you can say clearly developer console. Even if you created, if you log in your account, you can see this one, developer console. Okay, so that way you have to usually whatever you are going to discuss that POC, right? We need a table creation as well from the backend, right? So how to create the table? So you have a list of columns here. So same columns you can go ahead and create a table in our backend, right? And the coming to return type, actually what return type you have to choose it. So return type also here you can see that whatever the lead, right? So these are all the return types, right? You can see ID, the reference, and then pick list, right? You might not see this kind of data, this kind of the return type or data type in your DB, right? So make sure instead of these return types, right, you can just put it like a whatever the suitable data type in your DB, just put it. For example, here text area came. Text area is not there in the DB, right? So you can just make it a varchar, and then the more length you can give it, right? Varchar of 1,000 record, 1,000 characters, like that you can give it. Even the pick list also, which is nothing but a drop down in the Salesforce, but we don't have any such kind of data type in the DB, right? So accordingly, you can make it varchar or else appropriate data type you have to give it, blob or club, right? So hope you guys clear. So we have to whatever the columns here, same columns should be available in your database, right? So under appropriate data type. So this is the way you have to see the query. Okay. So coming back to the MuleSoft, how to integrate it. Okay. Let's go back to the MuleSoft. So we have the different kind of the connectors, and just search for the Salesforce. You can see the number of connectors are there, guys. These are all Salesforce connectors. Let's start with a query. We have a called query and query on. So the difference between query and query on. So as I shown you here, the part of the developer console, right? So when you're trying to execute this entire thing, right? So sometimes in your backend, in your Salesforce, right? So some kind of inactive records, they might archive it actually. Okay. So when you're using query, there are two kind of the connectors here in the MuleSoft palette, AnyPoint Studio palette. So when you use the query, you can fetch only active records, right? So when you go for a query all, so even including inactive records and then archived records, entire records you can fetch it if you go for a query all. That's only the difference. Okay, so usually the Salesforce side, right? For example, think like this: there are the customers. The customers tab is not there here. So the customers, few of the customers, they might delete it, right? So they will do soft delete. Actually, it's not a hard delete kind of thing. So the soft delete, or else they make it as a we have the column called inactive. So they make it inactive, right? So if you want to fetch that inactive and then deleted, whatever that soft deleted records, you go for a query all actually. Okay. So that's the difference, query and query. So let's drag and drop that query. Let's see the query, will drag and drop it. Okay. So what I will do, just for a testing connection, let's drag and drop that HTTP listener first. SFTC. Okay, so let's drag and drop that SOQL, which is nothing but a query. Okay, I just drag and drop that query. So let's see what information this guy is expecting. So here you can see this SFDC user, SFDC password, SFDC token, SFDC authorization URL. So you don't need to worry about that authorization URL. If you see that by default, you can see that authorization URL action. Let me try to create a new one. Here you can see that. So right in disable manner, you can see that 151.0 is the latest the version of the Salesforce. So coming to username and password, right? So whatever that username you created, right? And one more thing here. So as you see in the DB, the connection, right? Here as well, different ways of connections are there. There is a basic authentication, OAuth v2.0, the JWT, username and password, and SAML authentication. Okay, so whatever the authentication you are going to choose it, right? We need some information from the Salesforce POC, Salesforce point of contact, right? So right now I'm choosing the basic authentication, which is expecting these parameters. The first one is the username. Let's put it whatever the username we created, right? So obviously, which is nothing but some email ID you might create it. So just create that one, use that one, email ID, and then password. So you have handy the password as well, enter the password, and then authorization URL, keep it as it is 51.0, and then coming to token, right? So where you will get this token? Usually you can check with the Salesforce guy, Salesforce POC, we'll get that the token, right? But right now we don't have any Salesforce the people here. So we are the owners for the Salesforce as well, right? So how to get the token from the Salesforce? So as I said, once you logged in, go to setup and then click on your name. So here you can see the my settings. Okay, so click that my settings. So hope you guys are logged in. So go to settings and then here you can see that personal. Left side you can see that personal. So click that personal. And then here you can see that reset my security token. Okay, so reset my security token. So click on your name and go to my settings. Click on the personal, expand the personal. Under that you can see that reset my security token. So you can read this one. So whenever you're trying to reset it, so it will send to that whatever the register email ID you put it, right? So while registration time, while sign up time, so it will go to your the registration email, this particular token. Okay, so if suppose if I reset this one, what it will happen, whatever my existing application, so wherever I use that the previous token, right? So it will get interrupt actually. So I can't able to establish the connection because I'm going to create a new security token, right? It's a one-time job actually. So whenever you create an account, right, it's automatically sent to that particular token to your register email ID. So please look into your register email ID. So you should have a token from the Salesforce team. Okay, so you have to get it from there, that Salesforce token in your mail, or else if you forget it, just obviously we have to reset it. If you, whenever you click the reset button, is sent to minimum the register email ID, guys. Just take that one and put it here. Hope you guys are clear. So get the token, so reset it, the or else get it from your Gmail ID if you already get it, right? And then put it here, security token. Okay, once you put it, as usual, guys, As usual, you can test the connection, right? I filled here already. I'm just clicking the test connection. Everything looks good. You can able to establish the connection. And one more thing, guys, with the wrong information, right? Either it's a user ID wrong or password wrong, don't try it the more than 3 times, right? It will get locked for some time. So maybe 30 minutes or 1 hour, your account will get locked. After that, it will get released. Okay, make sure whatever the information you are giving, it should be correct. Okay, are you guys testing the connection?
So Venkat, sorry to interrupt. So what will be the authorization URL here?
Yeah, it's by default coming now. Ashwani, right? By default, you can see the disable mode 51.0, right? So I'm using 42.0. I think latest version is the 51.0 something. What I was saying, when you're trying to drag and drop the Salesforce connector, right? For example, let me choose plus here. Here you can see that is coming automatically.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so for your reference, I'm just pinging as well. It's 42.0 as well, the previous one. Okay. Are you guys able to establish the connection? If yes, the next step is what you done in the previously. We prepare a query, right? So take that query. So wherever that Salesforce query is there, right? So just put it here. Okay. I capture that query from the developer console. I can copy paste it here. Okay. Usually this is not recommended directly. You can keep that the entire query in the part of the Salesforce query text area. So usually we'll keep it outside. The reason behind is in Salesforce side, keep on, they're going to add a new fields. They're going to remove the existing fields. So these are all standard objects actually. So somehow standard object we can use it in the code itself, but so they might have some custom objects as well, right? So the part of the custom object, they might create new fields, they might delete that existing fields. This keep on happening actually. If it is the case, it's better to do externalize, right? We are already familiar. Just put that into the dev.properties or whatever the external properties you are using. So keep it there. So that going forward, so if you want to add that, simply you can add into the properties itself. If you want to remove that any existing fields, you can remove it. Okay, now what it will happen if I'm using inside the Salesforce query connector itself. So obviously, only the MuleSoft developer can do this, right? Others can't able to do it. If you keep it into the properties file, anybody can just add it and remove it, right? Okay, I'm just saving that change. So the next step is, let me just put some transformation and then convert into JSON, just for seeing the data. Okay, so let's deploy this one and see. Just deploying, guys, just for connection and fetching the data. Add a debugger here. So hope you guys are following. Just put a query and then put that whatever the configuration and take the query. I already shown you how to take the query from the Salesforce. Take that query and keep it into your connector and then convert into the JSON. Try to deploy it and we'll do debug actually what information you are getting, how many records we are getting. We'll see that. Usually it will not they take this much time as well, guys. So I restarted my mission long back, almost more than a month. So maybe the reason actually, but in our case, it will take it will not take this much time to deploy it as well. Okay, I can able to deploy successfully. You can see. Okay, let's try to trigger that one. So I'm just taking that the path here, SFTC connection. Let's go to browser. This is the anyway getter, right? I can try to browser as well. HTTP localhost 8081/SFTC connection. Got a request. Okay. Let's see the next step. So previously, whatever you're doing, so it's a part of your logic, right? I mean, it's kind of internal to your AnyPoint Studio. Now it is external, right? So we should have internet connectivity. It will go to that whatever the URL you put it. It will go there and get executed and come back. It's an external system. So here you can see, I can see that total 63 records are there. Right? You can see the size. Each record you can expand it. Many fields are there. Almost 61 fields are there. So let's see 63, right? We are using a query. Let's get execute this one. You can see it here. The count is matching, right? In the Salesforce, I can see 63 records. I can able to fetch it 63 records. So then we are good. Then we are trying to convert it. What format you are getting here? Observe here, we are getting an array list, right? From the Salesforce, you are getting an array list. I'm just clicking F8, so converting into the JSON. So here you can see that entire JSON. And the 63 records JSON we can see. Are we good? You guys able to fetch the data? So hopefully yes. Okay, so let's do some kind of a security here. So yesterday also we were talking about the security part. So here the part of the configuration, right? Let's try to edit this. So click SFTC password, right? If I go and look into it, SFTC password, where I'm pointing here, the global property dev, right? Let's open the dev.properties. Okay, don't misuse it, my information. Here you can see that my password is open, right? So it should not be the case actually. Let's try to encrypt it. Okay, so how we'll do that? For example, if you see, here is the database password. I made it the encryption here, right? You can't able to see, anybody can't able to see once they open the properties, but where I can see that SFDC password, I can see, right? So let's try to, this is a token, guys, token format. You can see there's a token format, and then you can see the password. So what we'll do, we'll try to encrypt the password. How we'll do that? Okay, so hope you guys are clear the connectivity of the Salesforce, right? So no questions, right? It's a basic authentication used, and I'm trying to fetch the information. So we'll try to encrypt this password, whatever the password I'm passing, right? So not only password actually, so whatever the SSN details, password, whatever you felt it is a sensitive data, it should be encrypted, guys. Okay, let's do that. So what you have to do is go to your help. So here is the one of the menu item. You can see help in Anypoint Studio. So go to there and then click install new softwares. Okay. So the next step is I already add the plugin actually. In your case, it might not available. So I'm just opening that whatever the URL it is. Okay. So here you can see that security update. There is a security update. I'm just clicking that one, security update. What you have to do is you have to add this one. I'm just keeping in the chart. So this is the name, we have to keep it. And then name you can give whatever it is, whatever you want, you can add that. And then so this is the URL for that. Okay. So from there, you are going to download the plugin, add into in your Anypoint Studio. How to add that one? Let me show that one. So here I already installed the list of plugins. I can able to see here actually available softwares. You can see that API Kit I added, Eclipse update site I added, Mule runtimes I added, MUnit update site added, along with the security update also I added. Okay. So, but in your case, it might not available. So click add symbol here. So there is an add button here, right? So put that the name, whatever that security update here, you can add that security update here, and then location you can add it here. Whatever the URL I shared, right? The Amazon URL, right? You can just put it here. Once you put it there, then add it. Okay. Security update. Please add that one. Hope you get it. So name you have to keep it the security update. The location, whatever the URL I shared in the chart. So you have to add that one. Just click add. It will take some time, and then so give that next, and then accept agreed terms and agreements, and then click finish. So it might ask the restart as well. If it is asked, then you can restart it. Okay, even Anypoint Studio get restarted after that. So once you've done that one, you can able to see that in the manager, right? Available softwares, you can see that the plugin. Okay, so once you've done that, okay, once you've done that, so right click on your properties, right? So once you add that plugin, that time only you can see that Mule properties editor, guys. Otherwise, you won't able to see the properties editor. Okay. Somebody was asking again that the URL, I just share that. Okay, so here, so we have a different properties, right? Dev properties, production properties. I'm just right click on the properties. So use that open with. You can see the generic text editor, the Mule properties editor. So in your machine, that particular security plugin not available, you can't able to see the Mule properties editor. You can see only generic text editor. So once you add that plugin, you can see the Mule properties editor. Just click it. I just use that open with Mule Properties Editor. So when you choose that, here in the bottom, you can see the text editor, table editor. Hope you guys are following. So once you open that in the Mule Properties Editor, you can see the two tabs here in the bottom, text editor, table editor. In the table editor, so you try to find it out, where is that whatever the sensitive data, right? So where is that? Here is the sensitive data. Click on that one. So you have to not click the right side, guys. You have to click on the key. You have to click on the key, right? So here is my password. Just click on the encrypt. It's get encrypted. But in your case, it should not encrypt it directly when you click that one. So why in my case it's encrypted? I already add that required algorithm, the required the key name, everything I added already. So that's the reason it did not ask that one the algorithm actually. Let me try to decrypt it. Right, it's get decrypted, encrypted. Let's get encrypted. I'm just taking that one encrypted thing and then so put into your text editor. So wherever name is there, I'm just putting that one. So I just save that one. Okay. So let me just close it and open. So here you can see SFDC password get encrypted. Okay. Hope you guys are clear. So in your case, guys, I'm trying to repeat it again. When you're trying to click that encrypt option, okay, so it will ask that which algorithm you're going to use it, right? Let me try to show that window as well. Instead of this project, let me do other project so that we'll get window. So whatever you've done that the MySQL database at earlier sessions, let's do that. I think here also I added. Let me see. Open with Mule Properties Editor. Here is my password, right? Here also open to all. Click that one. Observe here. When I'm trying to click that encrypt, I can see one more window, right? So what they're saying, which algorithm you're going to encrypt it. So you have to use the specific algorithm, right? The existing algorithm, you're going to choose it. You can use AES or Blowfish. Most of the times we'll go for a Blowfish only. Choose that one. And then you have to give some key, guys, right? So some secret key. So you have to remember that one as well. So right, any algorithm, if you want to encrypt it, usually you have to pass that security key actually, right? I just give some security key here. Okay, click OK. So it's get encrypted, you can see. So take this one and put into your properties file. So where is the password? Here is the password. I just encrypt it. Okay, so that is the how to do that encryption part actually, right? Similar way, in the same window you can decrypt it as well, right? Once you open, go to the table editor. If you want to decrypt it, observe here when you're trying to decrypt it. So usually it will ask the password as well actually, right? So you have to give that whatever that security key you gave, right? Given, right? So that security key you have to give it so that it will open, right? Until unless if you don't know the what is that key, what is the secret key I put it there, you can't able to open that one. Okay, so hope you guys are clear that one. Okay, so coming back to the Salesforce project, what you done, right? Here I added that encryption thing, right? So we are using this key now. So where you are using the part of the SFTC, the connector you are using, right? Go here. If you see here, password, show password, here you can see. So this required some extra, the parameter extra change required, which is nothing but secure colon colon we have to pass it, guys. Secure colon colon we have to pass it. So whatever the encrypted fields, right? Whatever the sensitive fields you might encrypted. So the further fields we have to add the secure colon colon extra instead of the key, right? Along with the key, you have to add that secure colon colon. Let's try to click the test connection now after adding this. You can see some issue. Let's see what is the issue. Property not found. It's clearly saying, right? So could not find the configuration called secure colon colon SFDC password, right? So that means something else we have to do it. Okay. So let's go to your configuration. We added this. Somewhere else you can see the Salesforce configuration, right? Here you can see that. Enter here. So this is the one, right? So we have to, let me add here actually. Let's go here on the back end. Usually it should take through front end as well, guys. Meaning through GUI. We have to add the properties file. Let me add into the properties file. Here is the thing, right? One moment. Let me try to. What we have to do is we have to add one more secure property here actually. Let me show you that one. Everywhere I removed it actually. Let me add it here. In the Salesforce itself, here search for the secure actually. There is a secure properties will be there. Secure configuration property. Okay. So I did not see that one here. So what you can do is search for that secure configuration. Just looking into the Exchange. We have to add the connector, guys. Let me just show you that one. Okay. So here is the one, Mule secure property extension. Okay. I'm just selecting that one, add it here. Okay, finish. Now go to global elements. click here. Observe here, previously it's not there. I'm repeating this step again. So there is one more security plugin, because why I'm getting a failure there. So we did not provide any key there actually. Whatever the password, the security key I provided there, right? That key you have to pass it the part of your configuration, right? For enabling, for decrypting and using the code itself. So further, you have to add that in the palette. There is a secure the plugin required again, right? So once this security plugin when it available, once you add that software, that inside you added that security plugin, but it's not available in the palette. Search here, and then so if it is not available, just try to look into the Exchange. Okay, so use your account and then add that one secure. Search for here, so secure. You can see that secure configuration clearly, mule secure configuration. Click the tab, it will add it here, and the next time you can see that one inside the global elements. You can see that. Okay, so go to create again, secure, and just see that one. Just double clicking on that one, you can see. So you have to show that what properties you're going to do that. There is no YAML files actually, only properties, and just choose that properties, dev.properties, and then whatever the key you put it there, right? What is that key? I just put it as a mule actually. You have to give that key, and then whatever the algorithm you choose it, right? I choose that Blowfish actually. So default AES is there actually. Just choose that Blowfish. Okay, just click it. Okay, hope you guys are following. No confusion. So these are extra plugins required, guys, for the if you want to enable the security. Right, I'm done that step. Let's try to double check now. So this is the connector we added, right? Let me try to. Let me refresh my project. Okay, let's go here. Let's click this one. Show password. Here, as I said, you have to pass that secure : : Let's see now. Connection. Okay. So now your password secure whatever the sensitive data. Are you guys done? It's a couple of plugins I added, guys. Right, so I added the URL actually. Right, after that there is a global element I added, which is nothing but a secure properties. Previously we just added a configuration properties, right? We already familiar with the configuration properties and the global property, right? So beyond that we have to add the secure properties. Right, so whatever the key you given, right, that key you have to pass it, so that the part of the code. So I did not decrypt anywhere else. That the connector itself it can able to decrypt it and utilize it. So for that, what you have to pass extra, whatever that you might convert into the encrypted format, right? So for all the fields, for all the keys, right? These are all the keys now. So you have to pass that secure : you have to pass it, so that part of your code it can decrypt it and work on it. Yeah, please go ahead.
Show me that property, security property in the file.
Configuration you want?
Yeah, right, this one.
Yeah, this one. So show that the property, whatever the property it is.
First is the file name, right?
Correct. That file name. See, two things here actually. So I have only dev.properties, right? So that directly show that dev.properties. But if you have a multiple properties, right? So dev, production, all these things, right? So usually in your local, right? So we can show that one. But actually cloud as well, it's each property, each environment we have a one property. You can show that one, or else what you can do is we have a global property here, right? So we already made it a dynamic way, right? The connection configuration. This way we can pass it actually $env property so that it can recognize it. Okay, so right now we just put it a hard code. Okay, make sure whatever the algorithm you choose it, same algorithm you have to use it. Okay, are we good, guys? So next, so coming to assignment perspective, guys. So now we are familiar with the database, and then we are familiar with the basic authentication of the Salesforce, and then we are able to retrieve the data as well, right? We are able to retrieve. So using query connector, Salesforce side, we are using query connector, we are able to retrieve the data, right? So we are familiar with these both the things now. So what we have to do is the part of the assignment, right? So let's see the use case. So we have to interact with the I interact with the lead, right? You can interact with the opportunity. There is a object called opportunity, right? So you have to fetch the data from the opportunity. You have to fetch the data from the opportunity via MuleSoft, right? That is also MuleSoft code only now. So MuleSoft, and we have to fetch that SFDC opportunity data. Let's put in SFDC as an input, right? You have to fetch the data. The part of the MuleSoft, you have to write a query and then fetch it. Once fetch the data, so till now whatever we done, that insert operations, update operations, you can use that on conflict or else whatever we discussed yesterday, right? Duplicate update, right? So it's kind of upset operation. If you go and see it here, the Salesforce side, so we have the primary key, guys. Whatever the ID you are seeing here, right? The ID is nothing but a primary key here, right? So that will follow that the upset operation. So whenever the new records available in the Salesforce, right, it will get created. If the existing records are already available, then it should upset the data, right? So opportunity, we are trying to fetch the data via MuleSoft, and then we'll try to ingest into that DB, guys. So how to test this one actually, right? So ingest into DB. What you have to do is, for example, right now I have a 63 records. I'm able to fetch it and ingest into DB, right? For the DB, what you have to do, guys? So whatever the columns here, you can see, right? At least instead of 60, at least create a 10 columns, right? So it might take some time to create an entire columns. At least create a 10 columns. So create an appropriate table. Okay. So based on the columns which is provided by the Salesforce. So create a table in your backend, right? So read that the query and the fetch the data, the map it. We are already familiar with that mapping and all, right? Map it and then ingest into the 10 columns. Okay. So for example, so now we have a 63 records. You can able to fetch it. Just for testing, what you can do is in your Salesforce itself, try to log in your account, right? And then add manually. For example, opportunities here, right? So click new and then add the couple of records. You can add it manually, the couple of records. Right? So whatever the mandatory fields, just fill that mandatory fields. No need to fill all this information. Right? Click that. And just now I created a new one. So now it should be 64, right? Let's see. There's opportunities I added, not lead actually. So whatever the record you added, right? That record should reflect into in your DB, right? So previously, how many records are there? Once you go and add that new record, so that record should be reflected into in your DB. Is that clear? So That is assignment. So that too, one more thing actually. Now what you're doing, you are triggering manually, right? For example, until unless I'll trigger this should not happen. Let's introduce that scheduler. So there is a scheduler component, right? So use the scheduler instead of you trigger manually. So as I said, it's a system to system integration. So there is no manual intervention, right? For example, think like this. The client is expecting whenever the new records are available in the opportunity, whatever the object it is, it might be lead, it might be account, it might be contact. So whenever the new records are available, right? So it should be available in your DB as well, right? Because as I said, Salesforce have maintained their own database, right? So what client is expecting, so whatever the opportunities get created, that opportunities, so it should be available in my premises, my database premises. So that what I will do, on top of my table, I'll create some dashboard, right? Using that query and some GUI, we'll create a dashboard so that I'll just the monitor it actually. This particular day, how much opportunity, right? Opportunity is nothing but a business, right? How much business get created today, right? If something gone, opportunity is failure, right? Opportunities while creating the new opportunity, it might fail. So if it is a fail, what is the reason actually? In dashboard, all failures that he can expect actually. What is the reason? It might be any the user credentials or whatever the input they are passing, it might be wrong, payload is wrong, or might be the login issue, the user is facing login issue. That kind of a dashboard, or you can say audit table, right? So you can create some top of that audit table so that our client keep on monitor that one, that particular day, end of the day, so you can look into it, how much business get generated today, right? So here if you see, when you're trying to introduce a scheduler, there might be certain delay because we are keeping every 1 minute or every 1 day or every 1 hour you can keep it. So we'll see in future going forward. So expectation is instantly the record should create it in our DB. But when you're trying to introduce a scheduler, there might be certain delay. That's okay. But let's see in future. So how to instantly, whenever the record get created, immediately that record should be available in our DB. Let's see that one. But right now you can just put a scheduler. So till now what I did, so I just use this the HTTP listener. I just trigger manually. I don't want to trigger manually. Your job should perform automatically. Okay. So let's open that one, scheduler. So enable that one, whatever the configuration you are going to put it. Here you can see the two kind of thing. There is a fixed frequency. Other one is cron mechanism. Okay. So let's see the fixed frequency. So here you can see whatever you are keeping here, it's everything is a milliseconds. Okay. So here you can see the default is a milliseconds. If you want to choose the drop down, you can see that hours, days, minutes, seconds. Right. So I just want to trigger my job every 1000 milliseconds. Right. So you can choose, or else every day once. Every day once my job is want to trigger. Right. Just keep it that every day once in a day. Right. Here you can see that start delay. Once the job gets started, are you expecting any delay, or else immediately you can start continue the flow? That's nothing but a delay actually, start delay. Once job triggered, so whatever the delay, if you keep it that so wait for some time, then it will continue it actually, or else if you keep it at 0, it will continue as it is. So that is about fixed frequency. Let's see the cron mechanism. So there is a cron job actually. So this cron job is, you can keep some kind of a certain time, right? For example, every day PST hours my job want to trigger, or else every Sunday my job want to trigger, or every Saturday my job want to trigger, or yearly ones or monthly ones, right? You can frame that expression actually. You can use there is the website called cronmaker.com, right? You can use that cronmaker.com and prepare that how you're expecting, right? For example, every hourly my job want to trigger, generate it accordingly. Every hourly, Yes, you can see that 12 o'clock my job want to trigger. So this is the cron format actually. You can take this cron format and put it here. Right? Usually hard coded, but it should be in the property file itself. Time zone, right? So whatever the time zones, right? You can just capture the time zones and then update it accordingly, right? The PST or EST, right? So IST, you can keep it accordingly, right? Okay, is that clear? Is a perspective. So multiple time zones you can get it from online, right? You can capture the time zones, the list of time zones. Okay, so you can just take that one, time zones, and then I can put it accordingly. So now the expectation is you don't need to trigger manually. So your job should trigger whatever the time zone, whatever the time frequency you put it, right? So that should perform automatically. Okay, is that clear, guys? So please try to work on this one so that you fetch the data from external system, you are integrating into the DB. Okay, so next session we'll do vice versa. We'll read the data from DB and we'll ingest into the Salesforce. Is that clear, guys? Anybody have any questions?
So Venkat, I have one question here. So we are encrypting the password, right? So the same way, if we want to pass some sensitive data from the URL or from the API as a query param, so can we encrypt that parameter? Or
See,
only user
two things actually here. Yeah, you can do it whatever you want. Required extra coding actually. So now we're done only property file, right? So we have a components actually. You can use that. You can encrypt it. But the thing is, usually we should not get any sensitive data part of the URL. So that is one thing. And then whatever the URL you're seeing here, right? If it is a post URL, right? The post URL, the part of the browser, it will take it to encrypt that one. So your expectation is if it is if you want to encrypt it in part of the mule, yes, we can do that. Actually, we have a components. We have a component. We can use that base 64. You can use it and we can convert it.
Okay. So, but how to configure that?
We'll see that we have an extra components actually how to add it to the plugin. We have a base 64 and then we can convert it. I'll show you that from POC.
Okay.
But the most of the times, right? So DB passwords and then other SSN details usually will configure it, right? So this is the way from the properties. This is the way actually. Yes, there might be some requirements we have to the part of the code as well. So the mostly that is not part of the URL actually from the payload actually. For example,
Yeah, as part of body.
Exactly, a part of the payload. Yes, we can do that. There are a couple of ways you can do it. One way is using the base 64 component. You can use it. As I said, the part of the transform, right? We have a feature in transform actually. Okay, we can encrypt it using the transformation data wave, and then instead of entire value, right? You can keep some special characters instead of visible the value. What we call that the masking. We can do masking as well, part of the data. Okay, so we'll do that. We have the many features. So hope I answer her question. So any other questions, guys? Yeah, please.
Yeah. So in real time, so what kind of requirements we get when we integrate Salesforce with the MuleSoft? So in
one of the module, actually, whatever we are discussing, this is one of the module, real-time module.
So most of the times it will be like DML operation kind of things, or how it would be the other way.
This is one of the migration module actually. The client expectation is So whenever the data is available, right, as I said, so once data get created into the Salesforce, immediately the client is expecting it should be available in the DB. So most of the migration projects look like this, right? So they are expecting the data. You have to read the data and then dump into the target system. Okay. So even if you integrate, see, the middleware job is this is the thing, right? ETL process. Wherever the data is there, we'll try to fetch it and then we'll try to transform it, right? So here DB fields are different, maybe data types are different. So sometimes it's not as straightforward actually. If you see here in this particular scenario, we're just fetching the data and then we are dumping into your backend. So that should not be the case sometimes actually. Sometimes, the few of the fields are not available, right? You have to do some kind of a lookups actually. You have to do lookup and then look into the database or look into some other REST API call. You have to fetch that. You have to, on the fly, you have to prepare a, which is insufficient, the data they are sending from the input, right? You have to take it to fulfill that, the remaining data. Okay, that kind of requirements. The most of the time, it's kind of a transformation. Okay.
So as a part of requirement, they'll provide all the DB details like objects. I mean Salesforce object, which either it is a custom object or
part of the requirements, they clearly say actually what objects, whatever the objects you have to interact. They will clearly say, and then they will provide that whatever we are fetching that security token and all, right? The Salesforce guy will provide entire information actually. The list of objects, object name. So
even though it is a custom object, the DB guys will create those custom objects and they'll just provide the name. Is it?
DBA guy, you are saying?
I mean
Salesforce guy.
Yeah, source. Yeah, Salesforce.
Salesforce people will provide actually that custom object name. Okay, you don't need to worry about the target system configuration. Our job is, so whatever the fields, for example, I just open that, think like this. Now we are seeing that this particular SFDC. Tomorrow might be some other Amazon S3 connector. If you open that the Amazon S3 connector, you can see the configuration, right? You go to general and see the configuration. So you can expect that information from the Salesforce guy. So boss will provide these information. Right, username and password, security token, authorization. Authorization URL also different actually. As I said, environment to environment. Sorry for that, guys. Environment to environment, this URL will be different, right? So they will provide it actually. Okay. So they have the dev sandbox, some other the production one, the staging one. So they will provide that URL, and then everything, all information, configure information, right? As I said, right? So when you create a user story, right? Maybe sprint 0, we'll get all these information part of the sprint 0. Okay. So hope you're clear.
Yeah.
Okay, please work on it Saturday, Sunday. So all these things are the database pending things as well. So next, once you connect, so we'll explore more on the database to the Salesforce. We'll try to ingest the data. As I said, one more thing, right? Here we introduce a scheduler, right? So instead of scheduler, right? The expectation is once the record get created in the Salesforce, right? Instantly record should be available in the DB. That we'll talk at next session. Okay. So that's all for today, guys.
Venkat, I have one question. Here you provided that URL to encrypt to install the software, right? In real time also, is it the same? Is who will be providing that URL?
So this is exclusively MuleSoft. Actually, it's not any other vendor, right? So this is our job as a developer. You have to take care the AnyPoint connector plugins. You have to take care. You have to add it. Nobody will provide. Okay. So this is the plugin for your AnyPoint Studio. Nobody will provide. And one more thing, guys. So whatever we are discussing, everything is a real-time features. And these are all whatever I'm discussing the POCs, right? It's a part of my project modules or some other previous project modules only we are discussing. So if you've done these kind of things, once you sit in the project, once you get the project, Once you get the client, same thing actually. So there is no difference what you are using, what you are going to do it actually. If it is any, for example, in case if you get a same SFDC integration, same way actually, there is no difference. There might be business logic will be different. Whatever you are using connectors, whatever you are discussing scenario, similar kind of thing. Okay, so maybe they are expecting like fetch the data and then dump into some queuing mechanism instead of DB, right? Or else instead of DB, they are asking ingest into some other the vendor, might be the Workday, might be Dayforce, right? Some other vendor, some other target system. But eventually, the whatever you are discussing here use case, this is all are real time. I hope I answered to Sandeep. Still, you have any question?
So you mean we can use the same URL, right? In real time, also, if required, we can-
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. There's no difference actually. The only the difference, right? You are using a temporary Anypoint Studio, right? Currently, we download that free version, no? But once you get the project, once you are sitting, get the client, right? They will share that username and password, right? What you can do is you are going to download genuine Anypoint Studio, right? So here you can see that support.mulesoft.com, log in here, right? Using the ones the client will provide that user ID password, right? Using that one, log in here, and then they will provide the list of softwares actually. You can download from there so that your Anypoint Studio never expire. Okay, that is only the difference. Is that clear? But yes, the plugins, whatever you are doing, same thing. The entire setup also same thing. As usual, you have to do it. Once you get the client, right, they might share that list of softwares, right? So which version they are using, which runtime version they are using, which Anypoint Studio version they are using. So everything they will share you, so that accordingly you have to set up it.
So
Okay.
URL is S3 URL, right? So S3 something we are getting a plugin, right? So that details will be there in the help.com or something else will reach out the URLs.
Krishna, can you repeat it? Actually, voice is
So
clear.
what you mentioned correctly that question, right? Like you have given the URL has S3 bucket from S3 URL, right? For that plugin. So even that plugin URL is also there in help.mulesoft.com, or we need to Google it and get the, because in EPC you were into earlier, right?
I got it from Google only. I got it online only. So if you see whatever the plugins are, right, everything is available in the Amazon only. So this guy, right, MuleSoft, even Anypoint platform as well, on top of the Amazon, they have a private cloud edition. So everything, all the information available in the Amazon itself. So you can see whatever the plugin you are going to add it. So everything is available in the Amazon, right? Yes, straight answer to your question, you can get from that online itself. Okay. Okay, I think we are good.
So just one more last question on that.
Yeah, please.
So in real time, when we develop any of the requirement, do we need to make use of only the production data, right? Suppose when we are integrating with Salesforce, so we are making use of the Salesforce production object only, right?
No, actually. So here, whatever you logged in, whatever you created account, it's a production one only. Right? You are using login.salesforce.com. That means it's a production one. So usually, your Salesforce POC provides some non-production URLs. As I said, right, they have a dev sandbox, they have a CLM sandbox, they have a staging sandbox, right? Finally, login.salesforce.com is a production. So for your development time, so they will provide so non-production environment. Okay, so that's the reason here we have the multiple properties, right? Dev properties, staging properties, and then UAT, BAT, then finally production. So see how we have a multiple environment. Similar way, they will also every team, right? Every system, every vendor have a different environments to development purpose, to testing purpose, right? And then finally production. So development purpose, they will give that non-production sandbox so that we'll interact with. Everything is done, we'll push to the QA, right? So QA have some other sandbox, will point to that one so that whatever the simulation of the production data is available in the QA, so that our QA folks can verify it with the genuine data. But yes, they will provide the different environments. Okay. That's the reason we are keeping externalization here. So, but sometimes, you know, sorry, sometimes, yes, we can directly interact with a production if they have only production environment. We can't do any other thing, right? We can carefully the implement without breaking anything, without affect their system, right? Yes, sometimes, yes, if they don't want non-production, we'll contact to the production only. Okay, but that's very unusual process actually. It's not best practices. We should expect all the environments, non-production, right, and the production. Okay, I think we are good. Still anybody have any question, guys? So that's all for today, guys. Please work on in weekends. If you have any question, so can you please ping me? Yeah, Sandeep, I'm looking into your question. I'll get back to you soon. Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Venkat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining. We'll meet on Monday.